What is your name?
Mia Cooper.
What year were you born and what city did you grow up in?
I was born in 1964 and I grew up in Toronto, Ontario.
What technology did you have in your house growing up?
We had a telephone, we had a record player, and we had the television.
How did technology advance as you were growing up?
Well, originally it started, obviously, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have iPods. We didn't have iPhones. So it started off that by the time I was about 25 and getting married to your dad, we actually had a CD player, record player, which is the predecessor, and then we got a CD player.
What else?
And we didn't have cell phones. If you watch old movies, like from the 80s and stuff, originally cell phones started out in cars and they were humongous, and people, some business people had it, and they would walk around with these huge briefcases. It was insane.
What is the difference between technology now and technology in the past?
Technology in the past, Rachel, was a lot simpler. There certainly was not as much technology as we have today. There were only computers in the workplace and not in homes until about 1997 when we got our first computer. Technology now is unbelievable because before, if you wanted to speak to someone, you had to call them on his or her home line. But now you can Skype and iChat through a computer.
What technology did you use to communicate growing up? An example like a phone or computer.
Yeah, there was no computer, so it was either you either spoke to the person directly, or we used to sit on the phone for hours. God.
What is the difference between the prices of technology when you were growing up and now? Like, have they increased? Have they decreased?
Well, it's like I'm thinking of the example of the calculator. So the prices have come down a lot. So, for example, televisions have come down a lot from even when Daddy and I were first married and we bought our first TV. It was a fortune, and now you can get a TV for.
Why do you think?
Why do I think they've come down? Because they just improve on it and they make more of them, and they're also made in China and it's easier to make. But yeah, I'd say the prices. It depends on what you're talking about and what type of technology. Because certain technology we didn't have when I was growing.
In your school, how did technology advance over the years?
Well, to be honest with you, because I grew up in the 60s, right? So we didn't really have, laptops and stuff, obviously, throughout school. I didn't have it in high school. I
How
didn't
did you
have.
type essays?
Dad used to type them for
No, but
me.
on what?
On typewriters. We would type them on typewriters. And honestly, Rach, if you made a mistake, it was game over for you unless you had the correcting tape.
So, did anything advance?
Not really, like in terms of that, because even when I went to Osgood, when I studied for my exams and I did my notes, as did mostly everybody, we hand wrote our notes.
What technology did you have growing up?
Well, we had something called when I was growing up, there was a boom box. It was these huge boxes. I don't know if you've ever seen that. We had like two cassettes in them, and we had tapes. Oh, we did. Wait, there was VHS. So it was the precursor to DVDs, and you put this big honking tape into this machine, and then we would watch movies and stuff from it. So that was actually kind of cool. I forgot about that. And then we had the Walkman, which was a little cassette that you'd carry around, and then you'd have plugs that you put in your ear. So it was the predecessor of the iPod.
What was your experience with your first cell phone?
Well, it was just very exciting to actually have a phone that wasn't attached to anything, that you could use, outside, inside, and you could contact people at any time. Before, you could only contact people by a landline in a person's house. So it was it was very freeing.
What was your first experience though? Like, were you happy? Were you?
Oh, I was so happy. It was exciting. It was.
From when you were growing up or when the cell phone first came out, how have they changed over the years?
Well, I mean, it's sort of the same thing like with computers, they've gotten much smaller. The sound is better. You can do much more with them.
Like
So,
what?
well, for example, before the phone was only used as a phone. Now you can use it for texting, for BBMing, for chatting on games, I guess. Yeah, like there's lots of apps. And you can even use it. Some people, use it as a wallet now. It's just interesting because when I was growing up, we never would have imagined that. And I remember when they said many, many years ago, when the cell phones first came out, they said, eventually people will be talking to each other on their phones. And I said to Dad, I said, that's insane. It's not going to happen. There's no way.
How does technology benefit you in your daily life?
Personally, it's really, really very good because I get to stay connected. I get to stay connected to all the kids, to Daddy, to the boys, and it's just that part's really nice, and it lets me know what you guys are doing. So I feel happy because I know you're safe.
What was social media when you were growing up?
Really, only the newspaper, the television, and I think that's about it besides the telephone.
When did you get your first color television?
It was in 1974, and it was really, really exciting. My mom and dad brought it home, and we were just so excited, my brothers and I, your uncles. And when we turned it on, the experience was amazing, just to be able to see TV in color and not watch in black and white. It really enhanced the whole viewing of television.
Did it change your perspective on it? Did you watch a lot of TV
I
before?
watched a lot of TV before, so no. Because that's all we had, right? Like, we didn't have what you had, so yeah. We watched a ton of TV.
But did you think the color changed?
Well, I just thought it was just better to watch. It was more realistic rather than watching in black and white.
Do you think technology has benefited society?
I certainly do. There have definitely been lots of improvements with technology. As a result of technology being so advanced, you can see things on YouTube, countries will commit less atrocities. This occurs because there's a court of public opinion that is watching, so it makes it a little more difficult to commit acts of genocide. Everyone's also more connected through Facebook and social media. Technology can also lead to a lot more tolerance of people as well because you find out a lot more information about people. Also, with technology advancing, we're able to find more cures and treat more people's illnesses, which is very good.
What are the pros and cons of technology now?
Communication is certainly one of the pros. We're able to communicate with a large number of people, and it's not dictated by geography anymore. So in other words, you can speak to someone very far away and stay in touch with that person, not through letter writing, but through, for example, Facebook or iChatting.
What are the cons of technology?
Well, one con is kind of the inverse of the pro. So you can be connected to certain people, but it can also lead to isolation because you can communicate through the computer. So some people find that a lot easier than face-to-face communication. So that's a problem. Another con is that it can lead to different forms of bullying.
When new technology was introduced, did it improve your workplace?
Okay, I would say it did and it didn't. So it did in that things were a lot faster because when I started working, all we had were faxes. We didn't have PDFs, so you couldn't send a document through email, obviously, because we didn't even have email. So those are certainly some advantages. Of course, some of the disadvantages are because we have Blackberries now and iPhones, you're always connected to work and you're expected to respond at all times. So it does put a burden. And another problem with technology is that you're expected to respond exceptionally quickly. I would say it improved the workplace, but I would say
It made it easier.
It made it easier, but because it made delivery of information easier, in a sense, it makes it more stressful.
Did you feel pressure to conform to technological advances?
Yes, I did in a way because all my friends, when everybody got a cell phone, if you didn't have one, then you were out of the loop.
What was your favorite piece of technology growing up and why?
Well, it would definitely either be the television, which I loved so much because all the amazing shows were on, or I'd have to say the telephone.
While growing up, how did you adapt to all the new changes in technology?
Well, any changes that there were as a kid, it's always very easy to adapt because when new things come into play, you just, as a kid, it's almost intuitive and you're not as afraid. As an adult, though, some people become more afraid of technology.